I know I've already upset some people. I know I've already offended some people. I know people are coming into this video ready to leave a negative comment, ready to dislike it. Oh my god, I can't believe STIX said he didn't like the game. Oh, STIX is so rotten. But it needs to be said. I've played several hours of Blade and Soul Neo. I have played probably over 600, 700, 800 hours of the original Blade and Soul. It's one of the MMOs that I've played the most on this channel. And at the end of the day, Blade and Soul Neo just ain't it. I do have reasoning for this though. I'm not blindly hating, mindlessly criticizing the game. If you liked Blade and Soul last year, if you liked Blade and Soul 3 years ago, if you liked Blade and Soul 5 years ago, you're probably still gonna like Blade and Soul Neo. And the reason for that is because at the end of the day, Blade and Soul Neo is still just Blade and Soul. So if you hated Blade and Soul a year ago, 3 years ago, 5 years ago, you're probably still gonna hate it now. Because even in spite of NCSoft stating, this is a drastic overhaul, we're overhauling the gameplay, we're overhauling the graphics, we're overhauling the story, we're overhauling game mechanics and features, after having played it for several hours, I had to quit. I had to stop because it's the same game. It has the same story. Now, granted, you can skip the Hong Moon intro where you're at the school and just immediately appear on the beach and do all the stuff with Dotun there. So I do appreciate the fact that you can skip the really boring intro that you've probably done dozens of times already. But then immediately after skipping that, you're presented with the same story, the same quests, the same everything, type of progression. Everything is exactly the same. Now, maybe Endgame is different. I don't know, I can't speak for Endgame. But MRSSSTIX and I, we started streaming this and we thought maybe this time they'll do something different. This was originally labeled as Blade and Soul Neo Classic, a classic reinterpretation of Blade and Soul, kind of like Ion Classic and WoW Classic, but with a bit of a twist. And after supposedly undergoing numerous overhauls, numerous alterations, they decided we are different enough now from the original iteration of Blade and Soul that we're just gonna completely omit the classic term here and refer to ourselves as Blade and Soul Neo, because we've essentially established an entirely new game, and that is how they sold the game. This entirely different, beautiful, overhauled game that after playing it is the same thing. And I will preface this by stating there are some changes that have been made. There are alterations to the game that admittedly I didn't like. On the one hand, trading has been removed. You can no longer trade with other players. That feature right there pissed me off in Black Desert Online. I hated that. I hated not being able to trade with my wife, MRSSSTIX. Blade and Soul Neo was like, hey, people don't want to trade, let's just go ahead and remove that feature in its entirety. I understand that's probably due to the real money trading that is running rampant in the game, but at the same time, if you look at the chat window down the bottom left of the screen, you will see there are dozens of different real money trading websites telling you that they can send you gold. So what purpose did this serve other than to limit and inhibit players? Not being able to trade is a stupid function. It is a ridiculous feature to implement in an MMO. MMOs, of course, pride themselves on the massively multiplayer aspect. That includes trading. I didn't like it in Black Desert Online, and I think it's stupid that they implemented it in Blade and Soul. Before we go any further, I do want to take a moment here to thank all of my incredible patrons over on Patreon and my YouTube channel members who allow for me to continue to do dedicated videos like this every single day. You guys are absolutely phenomenal, and I genuinely cannot thank you all enough for the support. Something else I don't like that they did in Blade and Soul is, and you can check Reddit for this, I've seen numerous different threads made over the course of the last 24 hours, removed various modes of PvP. They thought to themselves, you know what people really hated in the original Blade and Soul? PvP, which is about as far from the truth as you could get, because people loved the original Blade and Soul PvP. Granted, it became pay to win over time. People hated it over time. It became a convoluted mess, but at the end of the day, like at the beginning of Blade and Soul, people loved the PvP, myself included, and they've removed parts of it now. Why? Who the fuck knows, man? Now, people have also said the game isn't pay to win now. Really? An NCSoft game not being pay to win. Sure, I believe that. Yeah, I bet it's not at all pay to win. Not at all. And then I've seen people that are saying it is still just as pay to win as ever. So, I mean, I'll leave that up for you to decide. Leave that up to you to interpret how you will. I don't know how you define pay to win. The game overall, though, I will admit the graphics do look slightly better, I think. Honestly, the character models still kind of look very similar. The graphics still look very similar. I feel like they just kind of threw a shader over it or something, because like the environments look a little darker, maybe a little more HD, but overall, this is very much the Blade and Soul graphical style, the Blade and Soul aesthetic. I think at the end of the day, the Unreal Engine 4 overhaul of Blade and Soul back years ago did more for this game aesthetically, graphically, than whatever they did here, and it didn't get an entire rebrand. I also don't understand why they would, why the characters still look so bad, like the hairstyles. When I went to create my character, the hairstyles, the textures for them were just terrible. They were ugly, really bad. They looked like a PS2 game, and then the characters themselves looked like something out of a PS4 game, like a lot higher quality, a lot better textures, and just overall better looking. So the contrast there between their hair and then the rest of their character was obnoxious, and I really think that it needs fixing. But I feel like a lot of things need changing, a lot of things need fixing, because at the end of the day, this is Blade and Soul. It's not Blade and Soul Neo Classic, it's not Blade and Soul Classic, it's not Blade and Soul Neo, it's literally Blade and Soul with a shader thrown over top, with PvP or some parts of PvP removed, with trading removed, with some new servers, a bunch of new players, tons of real money trading still, and it doesn't feel any better. Well, I guess it is better optimized. I will give them credit there. The game is much better optimized, but the issues that prevented players from playing it back years ago are still very much there. It feels like they did very little work. I don't know how this took them years to complete, because I feel like realistically this should have taken them like a month. I continue to reiterate, I feel like this was literally just a shader thrown over an already existing game. This is not and should not be an entirely separate entity. This is Blade and Soul. And again, if you like Blade and Soul, you're gonna like this. If you didn't like Blade and Soul, you're not gonna like this. This is nothing different. And I know that's gonna upset some people, I do. But if you're expecting something new, something innovative, something just different, then this is not it. And it's a shame that they're kind of advertising it like it is. Overall, I still enjoy Blade and Soul. So if I hadn't already played it a dozen times in the past for sponsored videos or just for dedicated videos on how it's doing each year, I'd probably have fun playing it again, but I just don't want to. I've played it enough times, and it's the same game as it has always been. Hey, where do you think you're going? I see what you're doing there. I see you navigating on over, scrolling on over to that X button. Don't you dare. What I need you to do is take a moment and click one of the videos that are about to appear as soon as I'm done talking. And trust me, you're gonna wanna.